Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to another episode of Multiverse News. My name is Akeem Johnson, sitting alongside with Brian Stone.
Hello.
Stephen Landreth.
Hey, everybody.
And we have some breaking news. Breaking news straight from the mothership in the return of Nationals. Reading directly from the article that we will be linking to in the doobly-doo below. Over the past 5 years, the World Magic Cup qualifiers provided an avenue for players to qualify for the World Magic Cup while alleviating issues that they had led us canceling the Nationals in the first place. Primarily, the lack of season organizers in many countries were translating to Nationals being the main, if not the only, tournament, and was impeding development of regular play opportunities necessary to the development of local Magic communities. The WMCQ program has held established robust network of organizers, and now feel we are ready to bring them the opportunity to organize Nationals. Long story short, it's coming back.
Oh boy.
Yeah. What do you guys feel about that? As long as me been playing Magic for, at least as long as I've been playing Magic for, I've actually never experienced Nationals. So you guys being the ones that play Magic longer than I have.
I mean, technically, I've never played. I played in the same era as Nationals.
Yeah. Sadly, neither have I. All I've ever heard are stories of Nationals and what all goes on with those. So.
Me and Steph started playing in the Dragon Maze era, and Nationals, I believe, stopped during New Phyrexia Innistrad days.
So like a couple sets prior to you guys
pretty
seriously getting into the game.
We started seriously pretty much I want to say about maybe a year and a half right after they just stopped doing Nationals.
Yep.
That's unfortunate, but it is back. They are actually going to be starting a tournament on the weekend of September 9th, 16th, or 23rd. That's still pending. And the top 2 finishers of Nationals will be the other 2 slots of the World Magic Cup. That's right, 2. We're going to get to that a little bit later. In order to participate, they need to have a certain amount of Planeswalker points, 500. So if you're out there grinding FNMs or going to GPs, definitely see what you can do to qualify for Nationals in your local scene.
Well, keeping that 500 points, that's just the U.S. and other countries the same level, right?
Correct.
So if you live in a country that's of smaller origin and scale, you don't need as many points.
Yeah, that would be...
Just like the WMCQs.
Now, to clarify what Brian means by scale, he means the Magic community as a scale, not the actual size of the country.
Well, yes, but typically the size of the community also goes alongside the scale of the country.
Right, but not all countries have the same volume.
Did I say country and country?
Yeah.
Yeah, you did.
I'm curious now.
Granted, I'll be outside. It's closed.
Destroyer
pads.
Yep. Dick. Stay over there. Alright, cool. Not only that, though, but we'll also be seeing a shift in the constructed format for the World Magic Cup. Last year, it was Team Unified Modern, which actually me, Brian, and Stefan actually kind of enjoyed. It was interesting to see the builds they had going on. Unfortunately, the higher-ups at WotC were thinking they need to go in a different direction, and based on feedback that they've received, the constructed format of choice will be standard, as well as Nationals, which also will be standard. Now, what do you guys think about that?
Well, as much as I enjoyed the Unified Modern constructed format, due to it just varying up the format and getting us to see a lot of interesting decks or unique changes due to the restrictions that were placed upon the players. I think all formats on all tournaments done by Wizards at its base is a promotional aspect for them, and you're not getting much out of something that's not standard or limited. So for them, it makes sense to do standard, and I get that. sadly, occasionally you'll get a format like the Mono Black, Mono Blue Devotion era, or Smuggler's Copter all the time. Sometimes, so it'll be a little stale occasionally, but hopefully they'll keep it robust.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, kind of to go off what...
Damn it, Brian.
I mean, to go off kind of what Brian's saying and kind of elaborate a little bit more with what he means by with Wizards leaning more towards standard, it's due to the whole it being a marketing thing, of course, because they're trying to promote themselves out there to the newer people and trying to bring more people into the game itself. That being the case, while a format like Modern and more in this situation, Unified Modern is something that is fantastic and very interesting for more tenured players like ourselves and those above and beyond us. Unfortunately for the new players upcoming, they see these cards when it's being streamed and whatnot, and they have no idea what's going on. So at least with it being standard and cards that they can consistently get their hands on and play and interact with, or at least hopefully understand a little bit more, and it can at least keep up with it and at least be more enjoyable. I remember my girlfriend, who wasn't as serious in Modern at the time when that was going on, kind of just sat there and stared at the screen blankly and didn't really know what all was going on, unfortunately. So
Yeah,
with
I know that feeling.
going to standard, yeah, Keem, it's more of a promotional thing, and while they haven't outright, I believe, said it, they are still trying to go towards that esport direction, and that's got to be more of a newer user-friendly type of thing, and I think this is another direction towards it.
Yeah, as someone who learned older formats like Legacy by watching coverage, I will say Magic's a bit more enjoyable when you don't have to Google every other card.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
Or ask your friend, hey, what does this card do? Why is this card important? What? Huh?
And while the stream is going on, you're telling them to shut the hell up so you can watch.
I mean, yeah, my bad.
Shut the hell up, Keem.
But while we're on the subject of the World Magic Cup, a little bit more in depth. As of now, we are coming back to 3-person teams. So no longer will there be the 4th person that's the coach that kind of is talking for their team, giving them decisions or whatever else. It's just going to be 3 people. And from the looks of it, what they said in the article, they mainly noticed there was a lot of awkward pause with the 4th person there not actually playing Magic, and more of, let's say, more of a heated arguments. It made things a little tense. So to mitigate that issue, they've returned back to the 3-person team model. The top pro point earner in 2017-2018 season will continue to be invited to represent their country as team captain. The rest of the team will be determined after each country's nationals, with the top 2 finishers earning invitations and airfare to compete in the 2017 World Magic Cup, as I alluded to earlier. So, do you guys think that's a good move? Do you think it's less interesting, or?
It's interesting. I mean, always having that 4th person there was always nice, because having someone being on the outside of the game looking in was always interesting to be able to get advice from that other person, being that coach. But also being in that same situation, I think it could be rather boring or dull. You're not actually playing the game, you're not a part of it. So it'll be interesting and new to see what all it does here. I mean, I don't really have much more of an opinion of that, because unfortunately I just not so much involved in it as that 4th person. I'm more interested in the game myself, so I haven't really been able to kind of get too much of a thought myself on how I feel about it quite yet.
So it almost sounds like, with the fact there's more Magic being played, it might be a little bit better for you. You actually get to see games instead of an awkward pause where
between
they're deciding.
2 people sitting there talking. Yeah, I mean,
exactly.
It'll be interesting.
So the 4-player team dynamic created a very interesting conundrum. Do you put your best player as the coach, so you could just have him swing between all the players and try to get your team as advanced as possible, or do you put your best player on the table, making sure that you can get a W no matter what, and then you have your weakest player as your swing coach, but you would double him up with the next weakest player or with someone who's facing off against a premier pro on the other side. So, say the U.S. is facing Greece, and Greece puts its 2 weakest players up against Owen Turtenwald. That way, while neither player is probably as proficient as Owen's now playing against 2 different people. They're going to see more things, just on average, due to the fact that there are 2 sets of eyes, 2 minds thinking.
Right.
So, it's an interesting conundrum, but I like the switch back to 3 due to the fact it's now just straight up Magic, player versus player. There will not be the coaching aspect until at least someone's been eliminated at that table.
Right. And I feel like that might make a bit more sense. Like you guys are saying, it just makes more sense to have more Magic being played and to cut out that, as they even said it here, it's like an awkward tension across teams where they just spend large parts of the tournament just kind of discussing a line of play without actually making the line of play. Similar to my legendary Court of Calling for No Hornet Queen.
Yeah.
Why are you saying that story, Akeem?
Not right now. One day we'll talk about the Hornet Queen mishap. But also there are some changes occurring to Grand Prix adjacent events, mainly on Sunday, which I'm really excited for. Sunday they're going to be releasing the old school format of Pro Tour qualifiers. They're back to get officially into the Pro Tour. So not like how it is now where you have a pre-qualifier and then you go for the actual qualifiers. You have to pretty much win 2 tournaments. This is the old school way. You win this tournament, you're invited to the Pro Tour. So this is nice. It only happens on the Sunday of a Grand Prix that you're going to. So if you don't do that well on the Grand Prix day 1 and you're still around for Sunday, sign up for this. Now, this is a first-come, first-served basis. There's only going to be a maximum capacity of 225. This, for the most part, does not change, even depending on if the capacity of the main event is higher or lower. But I think it's actually pretty good to have a normal Pro Tour qualifier like this. What do you guys think?
I think with the loss of the Sunday Super Series, this is an excellent thing to add to the weekend. It's a good way for players to just qualify again, having to right now work through the PPTQs into the regionals or having to try to qualify through the PTQs online. This is just one, more options for players, which is always great. And 2, it allows you to have the weaker players or just players who had some bad luck in the main tournament on day 1 get a chance at it, and it just feels a little more interesting to me.
What are you, Steph?
I mean, for the most part, Brian took most of how I generally feel about the situation as well. It's it just kind of helps certain people who kind of thinking more along my situation, where unfortunately more often than not I end up working beginning days of tournaments and I only have that 1 day off. This gives someone like me who's got the odd Sunday off all of a sudden to go, okay, well, I'll go here and I'll show up and I'll go in this tournament because it gives me that shot, where unfortunately where most tournaments like that, it's 2-day events, or like with PPTQs and having to go into a qualifier, it's just, there's no way that I'm going to be able to conveniently make the PPTQ and then be able to go to the actual qualifying tournament in hopes to slam that as well. So having this alternate option that's a little bit more convenient makes it a lot easier for someone in my situation to be able to get my own shot at it too.
Certainly having to get lucky once instead of 2 to 3 times is way better.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. On the top of that, you can kind of guess most of the really good players are going to be battling in day 2, so it gives you a better shot, you know, to deal with someone maybe a little bit lower skill level. I mean, granted, it's not guaranteed, because somebody could be like, all right, scoop the Grand Prix, I'm just going to the Pro Tour qualifier on Sunday.
Yeah.
Well, that's true, but it'll mostly likely only be players who are at the grinder level.
Right.
Or someone like Chris Pakula.
I don't want to face Chris.
I'm sure you don't, Akeem.
Oh, man. My track record against pros aren't that good right now. The last little bit of news that we have here is that the Grand Prix trials tied to Grand Prix Las Vegas will be the final in-store Grand Prix trials to take place. That is the end of in-store Grand Prix trials. As they said here, while some good was accomplished by having these Grand Prix trials in local stores, more often than not, this program's had mixed success and a limited turnout. However, Grand Prix trials will continue to be held on Fridays of Grand Prix before the main event for players who wish to earn buys for that event. They can continue to earn buys also by making sure they're hitting those yearly Planeswalker point thresholds that can be found on the Grand Prix page. What are your thoughts on that, guys? Like, you think it kind of makes sense? I mean,
No.
I never really went to a Grand Prix trial. I didn't really see the point of it myself.
I was going to say, I never personally did either. I mean, as they kind of notated in the article, they had their uses of having them. But I mean, for the most part, just getting them out of store, I think, just makes it a little bit easier in more actual site area locations, because sometimes it's not always convenient for certain people in certain areas because they're not hosting them in the middle of nowheresville, where there are certain people who want to go to tournaments. So,
as much as I enjoy having more tournaments accessible to players, I've heard some bad things about GPTs, specifically from the out-of-nowhere places, where a player would be doing really well, knowing he's not going to make it or be able to go to that Grand Prix. So his opponent asks him to scoop, or her to scoop, and so they can go to the Grand Prix themselves with the buy. Turns out they weren't going at all. They just wanted the extra cash that was coming.
And in some cases, like, the prize support isn't even that worth it anyway, because really the buys are the main thing, and they kind of left the individual stores to come up with the rest.
right.
So if they don't have the resources to kind of give them stuff, you kind of get like, hey, here's some packs.
Well,
Here's a little store credit.
Yeah, but going off that same thing, you have to keep the same simple mindset. Money's money, credit is credit, and packs is packs. Like, the difference between a first and a second place is normally substantial enough to try and meander that out of your opponent.
Yeah, and in some cases it can be seen a little low.
True. It seems like players, at least at the local store level, will do just about anything for a little EV, which is kind of sad, really.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you'll find people like that, and then you'll also find people that are just in it. You'll find many types of players. That's what we're saying. So they'll get us round up being like, oh, well, they hate local players. Like, we're local players. What the heck?
No, I love local players. It's Grand Prix trials bring out a certain sect of player, in my opinion.
Right. When something's actually on the line, you get people that are really, like, who want the win no matter what.
Right. Similar to the, when you have a good F&M promo.
Mm-hmm.
You put Path to Exile as your F&M promo, you're going to start bringing in the really good players to smaller LGSs, which cripples their local base. Meanwhile, if they put out something like News Constrictor, no one wants it. So you just have the local base.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of pisses off the local base because they didn't want fucking News Constrictor.
Right.
They wanted those Path to Exiles that they never got any of.
But those new promos coming out do look really cool.
Unlicensed Disintegration. Sign me up.
And
I
Aether
was going
Hub.
to say, I want those Aether Hubs. Those Aether Hubs look really pretty.
Foil
I mean-
those.
I mean, they do look pretty. I'm fine sticking with the non-foils.
Right.
Well, not that I want to just wrap this up real quick, but I believe last episode someone completely called me out on a tournament that I went over the weekend.
I mean...
So I kind of need to at least give my 2 cents on it.
Oh, okay, all right.
Wait, let's cut the outro anyway, because I want to talk about game day.
Oh, okay, all right. I wasn't sure if you guys want to talk about that.
Yeah, you had casual talk, and I was like,
Casual talk!
As Stefan said, I did call you out a little bit of a tournament that you went to last week. So what happened?
Well, as I reported back to you guys here, unfortunately my record wasn't all that great. I went 2-3 before I finally dropped at my local regionals. As I kind of told you in the episode before we recorded for the Pro Tour, Modern isn't my true format right now on what I'm knowledgeable in, and it definitely shows. I punted way more times than I wanted to, and there were a couple games where I missed some prized amalgam triggers that should have been out, and that's easily an extra 3 to 6 damage that pretty much ended me the game. And as you notated before, my last loss to was to none other than Jeskai Sahili combo. And it felt a little bitter and tasted kind of bad, not gonna lie. At first I started playing and it was, oh, okay, well, Jeskai control. I was thinking simple things like Snapcaster Mage and Celestial Colonnade and Restoration Angels. And then they played a Sahili.
Oh no.
And the only thought in my mind was, is this fucking standard right now? It was not pleasant. But there's a few games I was happy about. Like I said, I gave myself the junior college effort there. And I hope that I can do better next time I go to a modern event.
And yeah, and on top of that, we do have game day coming up this weekend. So, what are we all battling with?
Well, as much as I would like to be battling with a control deck that I want to brew up, I seem to be missing some cards that I know I own, but
that sucks.
So I'll just be trying out a variation of the Storm deck. Storm as in Aetherflux.
Ooh.
Hopefully you can sneak in there and catch people unsuspected. I mean, we did make some modifications to it a couple nights ago, and hopefully those are enough to let you slip through there. I'm hoping that it goes a lot better. Before when I played it, it was it felt very slowed and stalled, and it was pretty obvious for the opponent on what you were trying to do. So by speeding it up with a couple cards that we added, it should make things a little bit easier.
Also, the during the construction, or let's say tweaking, of the Storm list, we came to some ideas for a new list that we'll be putting into some implementation in the future.
Ooh, sounds exciting. Well, that's gonna do it for another episode of Breaking News Multiverse. You can follow us on Twitter at loyalty_counter.
You can follow me at FellStory on Twitter. That's FELL Story.
And you can follow me on Twitter at Finnie91. That's FINNIE 91.
And you can find me at Musamichi. That's MUSAMICHI. And this has been Multiverse News.
See you all on the uptick.